This video is about the secret trait that drives all ambitious men, including Arnold Schwarzenegger, and why it has nothing to do with ambition. If you're a high-performing man who finds it almost impossible to switch off, who hits goals and then immediately needs to go for a new one, and who can't take a real holiday without his mind still being on the whole time, then this video is for you. Now, there's something that the most successful men in the world all have in common. It's not strategy, it's not discipline, it's also not talent or skill or even work ethic, although they do have all those things as well. It's actually a hidden trait, something that exists in high performers in much greater levels than in the rest of the population. Something that in many ways is the true engine beneath the high achievers' success. It's the thing that society both rewards and also doesn't like to talk about. Arnold Schwarzenegger has it. The founders and CEOs who build and run the most impressive companies in the world also have it. In this video, I'm going to show you a diagram that maps exactly what this secret trait looks like in action. I'm going to use the Terminator himself, Arnold, and his life story to show you what it looks like in practice. And I'm going to walk you through the 3 stages of how to use this energy for positive force in your life. By the end of this video, you're going to understand why the life and freedom you're actually working towards just keep moving out of reach and what it actually takes to get there. Now, here's something we can all agree on. Successful men are extremely driven. They have ambition, talent, big capacity, and work ethic. These are the traits that we all see on the surface, and it's easy to put their success down to these things because that's what's most visible to the world. But there's something that this explanation misses, because if you look very closely at the men who achieve on the highest level, the ones who seem so compelled to keep pushing, keep going, keep building, long past the point where normal people would stop, we can see that there's actually something else operating underneath all of this. Something that doesn't get talked about very often, and something that's impossible to see on the surface. When we look at the behavior, the drive, the relentlessness, the refusal to slow down, we put that down to ambition or talent or mindset, but it's actually something much deeper that's driving these behaviors. Something running below the level of conscious awareness. Something that was there long before success. And that, in many ways, is the real, true reason for it. That is what this video is about. My name is Peter. I'm a high-performance coach for top founders and entrepreneurs. And I've also had the experience of living many years in this high-intensity state of go, 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 never stopping. And it was only when I was forced to slow down through a pretty rough burnout that I had to stand back and take an honest look at what was actually driving me in life. So I can tell you now, I've had this trait, and to some degree I still do. And I've had to learn to work with it and use it for good, instead of letting it take over me and just calling it ambition. It's the same thing I now work through with post-exit founders and even multimillionaires. Guys who've achieved what most people would spend their whole lives chasing, and who find themselves then sitting with the same question: why doesn't all of this feel like enough? What I've found in my own life and in theirs is what I'm about to show you. So I want you to picture a man that's driving on a highway in the desert. So here he is driving at 200 miles an hour, going somewhere really fast. And you've got all these people on the side of the road that see him driving so fast and go, wow, what a great driver. What an impressive guy. I wish I could be like that. And they're not wrong to be impressed, because from the outside, this guy's life looks amazing. He's going somewhere. He's doing things that most people could only dream about. And he's moving at a speed that most people couldn't sustain for even a week, never mind years. He hits a target, he achieves it, and then he moves on to an even bigger goal. And from the outside, this is what success looks like. He's impressive, he's inspiring. Wow, what a great guy. Amazing driver. But here's what the people here on the side of the road can't see. They can't see what's happening inside the car. So inside the car, it's a very different story. Once we join our driver inside the car, what we start to recognize is it's not all that it's cracked up to be on the outside. So this fuel gauge has been nearly at zero for quite a while. There's steam coming off the engine. And this driver at some point has a jolt awake and realizes that he has been driving at this 200 miles an hour for a very long time, and it's having a real cost on him. He's been in this car for years or even decades, driving at this speed, and he's been doing it for so long that it's no longer a choice. It's actually the only thing he knows how to do. Most high-performing men who are driving this car at some point have some kind of wake-up moment. Now, usually it's not something big. It's just like a small jolt, which makes them kind of snap out of it for a moment and look down and realize, oh, wow, I'm burning pretty hot here. It could be a little health scare that comes up. It could be a relationship that fails or doesn't work out. Just something that makes them stop and go, okay, maybe I'm kind of pushing things a bit hard here. But then they realize, well, I've got places to be. I've got all these people that are counting on me. Can't slow down, can't stop. So he pushes it down and keeps on driving. And then one day, something bigger comes along. Something that really makes him stop and become aware of this situation that is going on inside the car. He looks at the fuel gauge in the red. He sees the smoke coming out of the engine. And he realizes, oh God, I can't keep doing this. This is not sustainable. And then, almost without realizing, he glances into his rear view mirror. And in that rear view mirror, he sees something that is so terrifying, it only makes him certain of one thing, that he cannot stop. He doesn't really understand what he's looking at, these shadows in the rear view mirror. He only sees them for a moment. Well, whatever it is, he has a sense that this is the reason why he's been driving so fast all this time. It's the reason why stopping has never felt like an option for this guy. And it's the reason why now, even with the fuel in the red and smoke coming off the engine, he would rather push his car to the point of completely exploding or breaking down than stop and face these things in his mirror. Because stopping feels like dying. Now, this isn't just a car metaphor. This is something that really is old, almost ancient. It lives in the body. It's not just something rational or cognitive. These are deep fears that are driving this guy to keep going no matter what. Now, in order to truly understand what this is in our rear view mirror, I want to take you somewhere else for a moment. I want to tell you about our Austrian friend, Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger. So most people know about Arnold's achievements. 7-time Mr. Olympia champion, billionaire, Hollywood superstar, even governor of California. A man who reinvented himself not once, not twice, but 3 times, at a level that most people couldn't even reach in a single lifetime. And most people look at that and say, wow, what great drive and ambition and work ethic. What a self-made man he is. But here's what was actually happening inside the car. Arnold grew up in a small village in Austria in a household that was defined by fear. His father, a man who'd come home from World War II carrying traumas that he'd never dealt with, could be kind to Arnold one moment and physically abusive the next. Arnold has spoken about this in his autobiography and in his Netflix documentary. He and his brother grew up in a constant state of terror. Never knowing which version of their father was going to come home, they were forced to compete against each other for approval, their father literally staging competitions between them at the breakfast table. The message that landed for Arnold, and that was wired deep into the nervous system for him, was, you are not enough as you are. You have to earn your place and prove it constantly. Arnold had his brother, grew up in the same household and had the same father and the same wounds. His brother was exposed to that same environment and was crushed by it. He became depressed, an alcoholic, and at age 24, crashed his car into a wall and died. Arnold grew up in that same environment, but something else happened to him. Something got installed in him. Something we're going to call the tigers. Now, the tigers are those inner demons, those deep inner voices and fears that get wired in the nervous system through early experiences of pain or shame or danger. For Arnold, the tiger said, you will never be good enough. And so he said, fuck you, I will prove you wrong. I will literally become so big, so powerful, so unstoppable that you can never touch me again. I will show you. And those tigers drove him. They became the engine underneath everything, running him, pushing him, the thing that woke him up before anyone else to train at the gym, the thing that made him push further and refuse to accept limits that stopped other men. Not because he chose to be that driven, but because the tigers made stopping feel like death. 7 Mr. Olympia titles, Hollywood superstar, billionaire, governor of California. Always the next goal, always the bigger target, always more to prove. And here's the thing, the tigers produce extraordinary results. There's no question about that. The drive that they created built one of the most remarkable careers in modern history. And from the side of the road, it looks like pure ambition, hunger, the ultimate expression of human will. But ask yourself this, did Arnold ever really get to choose where he was going? Or were the tigers always deciding for him? Was he moving towards something he genuinely desired and wanted, or as fast as possible away from something he couldn't bear to face? Because every goalpost that moved, every time he hit a goal and moved on to the next thing, every achievement that should have been enough but wasn't, at some point that is no longer ambition. That is a man who can still feel the tigers in his rear view mirror, no matter how fast he drives. And this isn't just the story of Arnold, by the way. Look at the backgrounds of almost every successful man achieving at the highest level. Founders who built billion-dollar unicorns from nothing, and the executives who run rooms that shape the world, athletes that become icons and win medals and trophies. If you listen to them truly speak, really deeply listen, you'll find the same thing underneath. A very challenging early environment, deep wounds, 1 or 1,000 moments where a message of shame or fear or unworthiness landed in their nervous system before their conscious mind could ever question it. You see, we put these men's success down to all these external traits that they have, but this secret trait that is driving them harder than they could ever drive themselves, past the point of exhaustion and being unable to stop, is the tigers. Now, for one group of men, the tigers say, you are not safe. Without enough money and success and control, something bad will happen to you. You will be trapped again. You'll lose everything. You'll end up back in that place that you fought so hard to escape. And so they have to keep building, not because they want more, but because stopping feels like death. For another group of men, the tigers say, you are not worthy. Without achieving, without doing things in the world, without being needed and impressive, you don't deserve to be here. So they have to keep proving themselves. Not because they want to, but again, because stopping feels like confirming the thing that they're most afraid of is true. And here's the part that most men find it hardest to sit with. The energy driving all of this underneath the superstar, the successful founder, or that high-performing man that everybody respects is actually the consciousness of a child. A terrified child at that. A child that's carrying shame and fear that were never his to carry, and he never had the capacity to deal with. He's chasing adult goals in an adult body, but he's powered by the emotional reality of a boy who never felt safe or loved, and who made a decision that he's going to do whatever it takes to make sure he never feels that way ever again. That is what is in the rear view mirror. That is the secret trait. That's what Arnold has, what the founders have, it's what the top CEOs have, and it's what, if you're honest with yourself, maybe a part of you has as well. Now, if you want to understand which version of this pattern is most active in you and what's really driving you, there's a link below to a quiz in the description. It takes about 5 minutes and it's going to give you a lot more clarity. I would say it's the most useful starting point I can give to you right now. So click the link in the description below after this video. So now you know what's in the rearview mirror. The question is, what are you going to do about it? And this is when it gets both harder, but also more hopeful than most men expect. Now, here's the thing that you need to realize about the tigers. They seem very real, but in fact, they are not. The fears that have been powering you, the not enoughness, the not safe enough, the deep sense that your worth is based on your output, those were installed in a world that no longer exists. They were installed by experiences that happened to a younger version of you, in environments that required adaptation to survive. But you're now a grown man. You've achieved great things. The thing that you were running from that felt like death is not behind you anymore. It was never going to catch you. It was a projection of a nervous system that was doing its best to keep a child alive and safe. But here's why this is the hardest thing to accept. Because knowing that the tigers aren't real doesn't make them feel any less real. Understanding this intellectually doesn't change the feelings in the body, and the body is where the tigers truly live. For most men, when they hear about this, their first instinct is to try to think their way out of it, to understand their origin, to name the wound, to trace it back to the source. And those things are important and do matter. They're necessary parts of the process, but they're not enough by themselves, because those tigers, those programs that need to change, aren't running in the conscious mind. They're running in the nervous system, below the level of thought and reason, in the same place that they were installed through experience, through the body, before rational thought was even available, which means they change in the same way they were created, not through insight and thought, through the deeper embodied work that actually reaches the level where the wiring lives. And in order to get there, you need to be willing to do the thing that feels most terrifying. You have to be willing to slow down and stop. Not permanently, not forever, but enough to actually face those tigers in the rear view mirror instead of outrunning them for the rest of your life. And this is where most men get stuck, because stopping, like really truly stopping, feels like risking everything. It feels like if I stop driving, the tigers will catch me and kill me. If I let go of this drive I have, I'll never create anything worthwhile. If I stop proving myself, I'll find out that that voice in my head was right all along. Now that risk is real, and I'm not going to pretend that it doesn't exist. But here's the part you're not looking at. The cost of not stopping, of continuing to push the car past what it can sustain, is a forced stop, a burnout, exhaustion, a breakdown, your health going to shit, a relationship that finally can't hold up anymore, a body that simply one day says no. Now I know this because it's happened to me, and I've watched it happen to some of the most talented and competent men that I've ever met. The car always stops eventually. The question is, are you going to choose to pull over or wait till your engine blows out? Some guys are going to listen to me saying this and say, yeah bro, sounds good, and just keep on driving at 200 miles an hour. And that's fine, because I know some people need to have that experience of the engine blowing out and feel what the bottom of the barrel feels like before change is possible. But if a part of you has already recognized deep down that this way of living is not sustainable, and you have the courage to explore what life could feel like to slow down a little bit and face those tigers in the rearview mirror, let me tell you, something cool begins to happen. The tigers begin to dissolve. By doing this deep embodied work, by stopping, by facing, and really going into these tigers, their power starts to evaporate. They even start to change into new energy sources, which go from being something that criticize you and force you to do things you don't want, into motivating you and cheering you along. Now, this doesn't happen all at once or overnight, but I've seen it time and time again, first with myself and now with clients in one-on-ones and in retreats. Bit by bit, as each fear gets faced and the nervous system slowly builds new evidence that stopping and slowing down is actually safe, the tigers can begin to disappear. And each tiger that dissolves or is transformed makes it a little bit easier to breathe and to just exist without that constant drive and urgency. And eventually, one day, you'll look in the rearview mirror and you'll find there's nothing there. The tigers are gone. So now the tigers are gone, you can finally pull over your car. And after a period of this, you'll find your energy slowly starts to return. As you give yourself the rest and downtime that your nervous system and body has been craving, you can finally start to recharge yourself. And at some point, the energy begins to return and the excitement for life can come back. And at that point, every driven man can finally ask himself the question, now I'm no longer driven by fear and I can choose to go anywhere and do anything. Where do I want to go? Now, this is the question that becomes available for the very first time. And for most men who spent their entire lives been driven by fear and shame, those tigers, it's one of the most unusual questions they've ever had to answer. Because when you finally realize that you've got nothing to prove, nothing to hide, and nothing to run from, what you then choose to pursue in life can be surprising. For some men, the answer is still to build a large company, but now it comes from a purpose that's deeper and more connected to themselves, and it's coming from genuine desire instead of fear. And the work energizes them instead of drains them. And the wins that they achieve feels like doing something real instead of temporary relief from fear and shame. For other men, the answer is sometimes more simple. It's a smaller life where they're more at peace and they're fully present in their relationships and with their family. And they find work that means something independent of the recognition that it gives them. And for other men, the answer ends up being something that nobody around them would actually understand. They all think maybe they go a bit crazy. But for the first time, that's okay, because they're not worried anymore about what the people on the side of the road think. Because here's the thing, the point becomes not the destination. The point is, for the first time, it's a destination that you're actually choosing for yourself. And that is the big shift. From a terrified child running from the tigers to a man who knows where he wants to go and moves there freely. That is the thing that was never available when the tigers were in the rear view mirror. So let me ask you honestly, that thing you've been calling ambition, your drive, your push, the thing that keeps you going, is it motivating you more towards something you want? Or like our friend Arnold, has it been actually driving you away from something you've never fully looked at? If this video opens something up for you, if you maybe recognize yourself in here, I've got many more videos on this topic. So click the button below to subscribe to the channel and get notified when new videos come out. The next video in this series explores the reason why you keep repeating the same negative or addictive behaviors over and over again, even though you know they're not good for you. The link is right here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.